She thought she was just cracking into a neighbor's storage shed. She had no idea she was breaking into a federal safe. It started like any other quiet morning on the edge of my Texas ranch. The kind where the only sounds are the wind brushing through the mesquites and the distant hum of cicadas. But within an hour, my front gate was lined with flashing red and blue lights, a shaken woman yelling into her phone, and a group of heavily armed agents swarming the place I called home. This wasn't just any woman. It was her, the president of our HOA, known across the neighborhood as Karen, even though that's not her real name. She'd been on a crusade for months, obsessed with enforcing rules no one voted for, stalking property lines like she was defending a kingdom. And today she crossed a line she couldn't come back from. I'd been out early, checking fence lines near the south pasture. That's when I got the call. A neighbor told me Karen was on my land, trying to inspect a utility building she claimed didn't meet HOA standards. But there was one big problem. That wasn't a utility building. Inside was a high-security safe installed and sealed by the FBI. You see, I'm not just a rancher. I used to work undercover years ago. I retired from field duty, but the Bureau still uses part of my property for secured equipment and record storage. It's all above board and locked down tighter than Fort Knox. And Karen had just broken into it. I raced back, but by the time I got there, the damage was done. She'd somehow pried the outer door open, then panicked when she saw the inside. Instead of backing off, she doubled down, called 911, and claimed I was the one committing a crime. She didn't know the call would be routed straight through to the local federal liaison. She didn't know what she had actually triggered. What happened next? I still get chills thinking about it. Because when the FBI arrived, they weren't just angry. They were scared. Karen wasn't new to trouble. She was the kind of person who believed a clipboard gave her authority and a neighborhood title made her sheriff. But until that morning, she'd never crossed into anything truly dangerous. Just petty threats, fines over unauthorized fencing, complaints about the color of barn doors, or that my truck wasn't HOA aesthetic. Still, I'd kept my distance, played nice. I didn't want trouble, especially not when I knew what was buried just beneath the surface of my property: classified gear, encrypted backups, and forensic evidence that hadn't even gone to trial yet. Stuff the Bureau trusted me to keep secure in a reinforced safe house no one was supposed to notice. And now, thanks to Karen, that secrecy was gone. The agents moved fast. 2 black Suburbans rolled up before I could park my own truck. They didn't flash badges. They didn't need to. They knew me, and I knew the look in their eyes. This wasn't just about a break-in. Something was wrong. One of them, Agent Rivera, pulled me aside. We'd worked together years ago during a messy sting in Arizona. She opened the outer lock, he said, low and urgent. You didn't change the access protocol? No, I said. It's biometric. She couldn't have gotten past the interval. He exhaled but didn't relax. She triggered a dormant alert from a sealed evidence locker. There was something in there, something we didn't mark for retrieval. I looked over at Karen. She was pacing by her car now, still on the phone, probably demanding a supervisor. She had no idea what she'd unleashed. That's when I noticed the file, half pulled from the open box, its edges blackened like it had been singed. Rivera followed my eyes. You weren't supposed to even know what was in that locker, he whispered. Neither was I. The wind picked up, swirling dust around our feet. In that moment, all the lines blurred. Past and present, neighbor and threat, oversight and exposure. Karen thought she was cracking down on an HOA violation. Instead, she'd compromised a sealed FBI operation and possibly exposed information tied to an unsolved case we thought was buried years ago. And worst of all, the security footage showed something none of us expected. Karen didn't act alone. I'd seen a lot in my time with the Bureau. Sting ops gone sideways, double agents turning on their handlers, even cartel threats that never made the papers. But I'd never seen something quite like this. A suburban HOA leader with a superiority complex cracking open a sealed federal vault and accidentally unearthing evidence we thought had been destroyed a decade ago. And now, apparently, she hadn't been alone. Rivera replayed the grainy security footage on his encrypted tablet. Karen appeared first, jiggling the handle, then producing a thin crowbar. That was when my stomach turned. She wasn't panicking. She was calm. She knew what she was looking for. A second figure appeared in the footage, briefly, a hooded person standing watch near the fence line, never fully entering camera view. "This doesn't feel random," I muttered. "It's not," Rivera replied. "This wasn't about HOA violations. She was sent." That hit hard. I'd underestimated her. We all had. Karen had always seemed ridiculous. Overbearing, sure, but harmless. Now it looked like she might be the tip of something bigger. Maybe someone from the past. Someone we missed. I walked away from the agents and stared out at the pasture, trying to piece it together. The vault they accessed hadn't just held old case files. It had contained materials from Operation Latchkey, a failed infiltration mission from my early years. We'd been working on dismantling a domestic extremist group that had ties to rogue intelligence players. That op had gone dark after one of our informants disappeared. The Bureau claimed the evidence was archived, but apparently someone had hidden the most sensitive parts on my land. And now it was out. Then I heard a voice behind me, familiar but unexpected. "You shouldn't have come back here," said Ellie. I turned. My daughter. She'd shown up unannounced, dusty boots, eyes sharp. We hadn't spoken in months, not since our last fight about my work, about how I couldn't seem to leave that world behind. She'd left the ranch life, built something quieter up north. But now here she was. "What do you mean?" I asked. Ellie hesitated, then looked toward Karen. "You're not the only one with ghosts buried here, Dad. And some of them might have found their way to her." That stopped me cold. "Wait, are you saying Karen knows something?" Ellie nodded. "And if she does, you're going to have to choose, protect the Bureau's secrets or protect this town." Rivera stepped over, catching just the tail end of that sentence. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a burner phone. "DC's calling in a containment team, but you've got about 3 hours before this becomes public." Public. That word echoed in my mind like a gunshot. I looked from Ellie to Rivera to Karen, still barking orders into her phone like she was the victim in all this, and realized this wasn't just a break-in anymore. This was a reckoning. Old ops, old lies, people I'd trusted. And now, the HOA drama that used to be a nuisance might blow open a scandal with national fallout. And I had no idea who I could trust. The wind was picking up again. Dry, electric. The kind of wind that says a storm's coming, but not the kind you see on weather maps. This one had been building for years. Ellie's words were still hanging in the air like smoke. "Some of your ghosts might have found their way to her." Karen stood across the clearing now, arms folded, phone finally tucked away. Her expression had shifted, less outrage, more calculation. She wasn't yelling anymore. She was watching, listening. And something about that silence felt worse than all her screaming combined. Rivera checked his watch. 2 hours. After that, the Bureau pulls the trigger. Full containment protocol. What does that mean? Ellie asked. He didn't answer. But I knew. Files wiped. Witnesses scrubbed. Identities reassigned if they were lucky. If not, it meant burning everything down to keep the secrets buried. And this time, I wasn't sure if I would make the cut. I turned to Ellie. "You said Karen knows something. How? Why?" She hesitated. "Because she came looking for me first. 2 weeks ago." That hit like a punch to the chest. "She showed up at my work," Ellie continued. "Said she was doing some background checks for the HOA. Asked me about you. About what you used to do." I stared at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't think it was real," she snapped. "I thought she was just another busybody digging for gossip. I didn't know she had access to anything." Rivera stepped between us. "Listen, there's more. We traced a digital signal out of that vault. Someone used Karen's phone right after she opened it to upload fragments of a file to a remote server. She didn't just stumble into this. She was part of it." "Part of what?" Ellie asked. I exhaled slowly. Latchkey wasn't just an op. It was a cover. Ellie's face paled. Rivera didn't blink. He's right. The original operation wasn't about taking down extremists. It was about identifying moles inside the Bureau. The safe held the only remaining evidence from those internal surveillance files. And if Karen leaked any of that, we're looking at federal-level exposure. National embarrassment at best. Espionage fallout at worst. But why would she care about any of this? Ellie whispered. She wouldn't, I said. Unless someone paid her. Rivera's phone buzzed. He looked down, then up, eyes sharp. She's not acting alone anymore, he said. We just got a hit. 20 miles east, someone tried to access the backup server those files were uploaded to. Same IP used in a previous latchkey leak. It's a ghost account tied to Project Crossbar. I froze. Crossbar was the one part of the operation that had never gone public. Black site funding. Names erased. Assets lost. The kind of thing you bury 6 feet under and hope no one ever digs up. Then this isn't about Karen anymore, I said. She's just the crack in the dam. Right then Karen made her move. She started walking toward us. Slow. Deliberate. Her heels clicking against the concrete path like a countdown. No one spoke. 10 feet. 5. She stopped just short of the agents. Looked me dead in the eyes. I want immunity, she said, calm as a lake. In writing. Ellie flinched. Rivera didn't move. What for? I asked. Karen smiled, tight, nervous. Almost regretful. For what's about to happen. And then, behind her, we heard it. A second engine. Louder. Closer. Not from the road, but from inside the ranch. Someone was already here? ChatGPT said. The engine roared louder, echoing through the valley. A dark pickup tore through the side pasture, mud on the tires, no plates, tinted windows. Too smooth for a rancher, too reckless for law enforcement. Rivera drew his sidearm. Karen didn't flinch. Ellie stepped back, heart pounding, whispering, "Is that one of yours?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because deep down, I already knew who was in that truck. And it wasn't someone from the bureau. The truck skidded to a stop near the barn, throwing a cloud of dirt into the air. The door swung open, and out stepped Mason. My old handler. Gray stubble now. Still wearing the same smug half-smile he had back when he ran latchkey. He hadn't aged well, but his eyes were still cold. Calculating. Mason? I said. You're supposed to be dead. He smirked. Yeah. That's what they told you, wasn't it? Ellie stared at him. Who is this? He ran the op I was part of, I said quietly. Disappeared after the leak. Disappeared? Mason laughed. No. I was buried. Just like the rest of it. But I didn't stay underground. Rivera kept his weapon low but ready. You're out of jurisdiction, Mason. I'm not here on record, Mason said, pacing toward us. But I'm here to clean this up. Karen stepped toward him like a loyal dog returning to its master. I told you I could get it. I didn't know they'd trace it. You did good, he said. Bought us just enough time. The betrayal twisted in my gut. Karen wasn't just some HOA tyrant on a power trip. She was working with him, the man who'd let my team get ambushed, who'd covered up internal sabotage, and who'd vanished with the only copy of the report that could have cleared my name. Ellie's voice cracked. Why? Why would you do this? Mason turned to her. Because your father lied to you. To all of us. He didn't just guard the vault. He built it. And the files in it? They weren't just evidence. He paused. Looked at me. They were leverage. My hands curled into fists. You're lying, I said. No, Mason replied. You left because you thought you could protect what was left. But the truth? You were the last loose end. Until Karen cracked the box. Karen reached into her jacket. For a second, Rivera almost shot her. But she only pulled out a flash drive. It's all here, she said. The access logs. The biometric records. And one more thing. She handed it to Mason. And that's when Ellie snapped. No! She lunged. Knocked the drive from Mason's hand. It hit the dirt, skidding toward the open barn. Mason moved fast, but Rivera moved faster. Gun drawn. Don't. Everyone froze. The flash drive sat in the dirt. 10 feet away. The sun was starting to set behind us, shadows stretching like claws across the ground. Ellie was breathing hard, eyes locked on Mason. You framed him. You used him. Mason didn't deny it. Because he didn't have to. That was the truth. The real twist. I hadn't just been a trusted agent. I'd been a patsy. They built the vault around me. I was never guarding secrets, I was the secret. And now the last piece of that story sat on a flash drive in the dirt, seconds away from being erased, stolen, or exposed. The next move would change everything. The wind went still. Not quiet still. Like the earth was holding its breath. Rivera's finger tightened on the trigger. Mason's hand hovered near his jacket, too slow to be subtle, too fast to ignore. I stood between them, every muscle locked. Ellie was closest to the flash drive, but her eyes weren't on it anymore. She was staring at me. "Dad," she said. "You know what's on there, don't you?" I nodded once. Because I did. It wasn't just surveillance logs. Or access codes. Or deep black case files. The real file, the one hidden behind the decoys, was a recording. My final briefing before the vault was sealed. The part no one else ever heard. The part where Mason ordered the cover-up. Where I argued. Where I lost. If that drive got out, Mason would burn. But so would I. Not for what I'd done, but for what I didn't do. For staying quiet. For letting the Bureau bury people who deserved better. For playing along to protect my family. "You give me the drive," Mason said, hands still hovering. "We all walk away." Karen stepped beside him, eyes full of desperation now. "He said they'd come for me if it leaked. I didn't know it would go this far." Rivera didn't move. "You've got 30 seconds to back away." Then Ellie did something no one expected. She walked forward. Slowly. Past Rivera. Toward the flash drive in the dirt. "Ellie," I warned. She stopped, crouched, and picked it up. Held it in her palm. And then looked at me again. Her eyes were steady. "I don't care about the Bureau," she said. "Or what he wants. I care about truth. If that means burning it all down, then so be it." Before I could stop her, she turned. Fast. And hurled the flash drive toward the barn wall. Crack. The drive hit hard, bounced, and landed right in the metal feed bucket near the horses. Perfect shot. In one motion, Rivera turned. Fired once. The bullet pinged off the edge of the bucket, scaring the horses. They bolted. One of them kicked the bucket. The flash drive flew into the trough. Submerged. Destroyed. Water and mud swallowed it whole. Mason's face dropped. Karen stepped back, muttering, "No, no, no." But Rivera lowered his weapon. "It's done," he said. Silence again. Then, slowly, Mason raised both hands. "You'll regret this," he said. I shook my head. "Already did. Just not anymore." They took him into custody. Not officially, but enough to make him disappear the right way this time. Karen followed, hands cuffed. Shaking like she'd just woken from a dream she couldn't remember. By sunset, the agents were gone. Ellie and I stood by the barn. She broke the silence first. "So, what happens now?" I exhaled. "The Bureau will cover it. They'll say it was a trespassing case. Maybe spin Karen as unstable." Ellie looked at me. "And you?" I looked out at the fading horizon. "I think I'm done hiding ghosts." She smiled, tired but genuine. "Good, because I think this place deserves better than secrets." We walked back to the house. But just as I reached the porch, I saw something on the edge of the path. A trail of boot prints. Fresh. Too small to be mine. Too light to be Rivera's. They led to the trough. And away again. I crouched. Saw the faint outline of another flash drive. A backup. One I never saw fall. One that never got wet. Ellie saw it too. "What do we do with that one?" I looked at her. And smiled. We let it wait. The dust had settled. Literally and otherwise. A week after the incident, the ranch was quiet again. No black SUVs. No surveillance drones. No HOA patrols wandering around with clipboards and petty complaints. Karen was gone. Facing federal charges, though most of it would be sealed under national security. The HOA board, stunned by her arrest and the sudden vacuum of control, quietly disbanded for restructuring. Funny how fast people disappeared when the paperwork didn't match the power they thought they had. Mason was somewhere colder. Off the books. This time for real. And Ellie stayed. She didn't say it outright, but something changed between us after that night. The years we'd lost in silence and distance couldn't be erased, but they could be mended. We spent mornings fixing fences, afternoons tending the horses, and long, quiet evenings sitting under the stars with coffee and shared memories we'd been too stubborn to face before. I had more questions than answers when it came to the bureau. Why they let it happen? Why they let me carry it all? But I wasn't angry anymore, not the way I used to be. Just tired. Done with the wait. I didn't want to chase shadows anymore. One evening I found Ellie sitting by the trough where the second flash drive had landed. It hadn't moved. Neither of us had touched it. Still there, she said, without looking up. Yeah. You ever going to open it? I thought about that. About what was on it. The kind of truth that didn't change the past, just made it harder to forget. No, I said. Some ghosts need a place to rest. She nodded. So do people. We let the silence stretch between us, but this time it wasn't heavy. Just honest. Later that night, I buried the drive. Not deep, just enough to give it distance from the house, the horses, the life we were trying to rebuild. Not to hide it, but to leave it. I wasn't protecting secrets anymore. I was protecting peace. The next morning, Ellie hung a new sign on the gate. No trespassing. No HOA. No lies. It made me laugh. Then think. Maybe that's all any of us really want, truth without a war. Space without intrusion. Peace without having to pay for it with silence. To anyone watching this, here's what I've learned. We all have vaults. The things we lock away hoping no one ever finds. But secrets rot. They rust. And sometimes they explode in ways you never expect. The trick isn't to hide them better. It's knowing which ones you can finally let go. So ask yourself, what are you still guarding? And is it worth it? Sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting to keep the truth buried. It's choosing to walk away from it. Call to action. If this story hits something real for you, drop a comment below. What's the one secret you've held too long? What would it feel like to finally let it go? And hey, if you liked the story, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs it, and don't forget to subscribe. More true, wild, and way too close to home stories coming soon. Until then, stay safe. And keep your gates locked, but your heart open.